Although most of the world's population is experiencing climate change in some way, climate change does not affect everyone in the same way. The most vulnerable to climate change are precisely those communities most at risk of being devastated by its impact. Vulnerable populations are at higher risk for various reasons, including sensitivity or susceptibility to harm and a lack of resources to adapt. Because these vulnerabilities may stem from historical and systemic injustices, marginalized communities are often the ones most impacted by climate change. How can we identify and address these disproportionate burdens to create more equitable outcomes? And when taking climate action, how can we ensure that these vulnerable populations are considered and prioritized? Together, we will explore ways to address these questions using GIS. The definition of vulnerability can change based on the circumstance. So, our identification of vulnerable populations will depend on the question that we are asking and even the location on which we are focusing. Geography and GIS enables us to identify where and how vulnerable populations could be impacted by climate change. For example, a flood hazard might disproportionately burden those who are unable to safely evacuate because of age or a lack of reliable transportation. Whereas, if we were trying to identify those most at risk from extreme heat, our vulnerable population might be children, older adults, unhoused people, and outdoor workers. By enriching our data with demographic information, or geoenrichment, we can use GIS to locate areas of vulnerable populations and begin to map and highlight the disparities in our communities. Not only can GIS help us identify vulnerable populations, but it can also help us see spatial patterns and trends that we can use to predict how different climate change scenarios will affect these communities in the future. GIS allows us to actively connect with the communities most affected by climate change. By doing so, we can act to address the effects of climate change in an equitable manner.